Hey guys, Fire here, and today I'm back on Anime Guardians even though I've finished the update because honestly no other game has really updated yet, so I am personally waiting on those, but there is something I would like to talk about with this game. Now, I know a lot of you may not really understand the deep-rooted philosophy and why this may be an issue for the game, but I want to talk about Blast and why he personally might be ruining the game. Now, you may think, how could Blast be ruining the game? He's a very good character. And that's true, Blast is really good, but that's precisely the issue. The fact that he can push your characters into negative SPA is going to continuously just make any stage in the future of the game completely thoughtless. There will be like basically no thought or even strategy needed to beat any stage as long as you have this guy, because how can you possibly lose when your units are attacking so fast that nothing can survive? Like, let's say you have a team of, again, Regulus, Blast, Subaru Lust, and any other character. You can't lose with that because Regulus is going to be stopping any enemy in their tracks. Blast is going to be giving every character you have more damage and negative SPA. Subaru Lust is going to be continuously refilling Regulus's bar, and like how could you possibly call that a challenge in any sort of way? Now, personally, I believe the issue with Blast could easily be fixed. All you would have to do is either limit his placements to like 2, or just give SPA reduction, like, I don't know, an 80% cap or something. Make it to where every unit can't just go into negative SPA just by having him there. It is just a huge issue, and it will continue to be an issue unless he just has something done about it. Now, I understand people may feel that way about Regulus as well, where he might be an issue, but the whole thing about him is that they can easily just add a stage restriction that prevents any enemies or bosses from being frozen, and they could also just patch up Regulus by giving him a timer on his freeze, and also making it to where it goes on to a cooldown after being used on a certain enemy. So, like, let's say the freeze lasts for 5 seconds, and then it stays on cooldown for another 10-ish seconds. That way the enemies aren't just sitting there for all time. But Blast is just inherently an issue based on the fact that if they were to add a stage that nerfs your SPA, anyone that doesn't have Blast is going to be at an insane disadvantage based on the fact that that SPA would just probably be skyrocketed more than they could possibly even handle. Now, I believe they could also just limit Blast like they've done with the tournaments, but I think that's just a huge band-aid fix, and I do not believe that's how it should be handled. Now, characters like Carmilla, freaking Yuichiro, and maybe even Sukuna have been, well, Sukuna specifically has been good for such a long time, but it isn't an inherent issue because of the fact that he doesn't just trivialize any stage. You, like, whenever World Boss came out, if any of you were playing at that time, Sukuna didn't make the stage completely free. You still had to actually attempt, like, you had to put thought into the stage. You had to actually try. Like, I remember personally, once I had eventually gotten power, I would use power paired with Sukuna, and then I would be able to actually just really quickly kill the boss. But before that, I would have to actually sell my units, move them, or even use Poochie, which, honestly, I feel like being able to bring Poochie as a counter to the stage is a complete different ballpark to having a unit that makes every single stage that you could possibly be doing free. I just personally do not really like the fact that Blast puts your units into the negative SPA. It's cool for a little bit, but it just becomes really, really boring really quickly. I understand that some of you may not agree with that sentiment, but I certainly believe that he is just a huge issue. Now, again, Regulus, he can be an issue too, but he can much easier be... I can't even think of the word, but it's so much easier to limit him than to limit Blast without harming other players, because just making a boss unable to be stunned is completely just reasonable. I mean, a lot of games make bosses unable, like immune to stuns and stuff, which honestly I do not think is a bad design choice. But being like, if they gave a stage the SPA like increase to all units, that would just be a bad design choice because of the fact that every single other person that doesn't have Blast on their team would just be struggling with that stage, more than likely. Now, it could also just be if someone has a SPA reducting passive, that passive is completely negated, which that is completely fair. I wouldn't mind that. But personally, I believe Blast could just be nerfed by lowering his placements, which, sure. Like, if they just knock them down to one placement and then you can have an Ancient, that would also be completely fair. I think that would probably actually be the best, like, course of action for Blast. Now, someone like Subaru Sloth isn't really a big issue, even though he is giving your units insane damage. If you have to give him the cursed book with Divine Wrath in order to actually be seeing those numbers. Now, if you don't have this on him and you want it on someone else, that's completely understandable. So like, you just have to build around this fact. But personally, I do keep that on him because it is a good buff. But it doesn't really matter because if you don't have that book on him, he's a lot more balanced. He doesn't have like the full uptime for his buff. But being able to give him that artifact to make him that strong is completely fair in my opinion. It's just extra damage. It doesn't make stages completely free. Because like, if you have him there, he is going to be good, but his damage isn't really doing much and he isn't really doing much in general other than that attack. But Blast is buffing you for your attack. He's buffing your SPA. He's also has the ability that makes him be able to quote-unquote skip 5 ways, really just stopping enemies from spawning, which honestly isn't really that broken. It is really nice, but I don't have an issue with that. I just have a huge issue with the SPA reduction. Now, if that were fixed, I feel like the game would be in a lot better of a spot. And don't get me wrong, I love this game to death. I do believe it is a great game. It is very fun to play, but the issue is the fact that Blast is just way too powerful. And I understand that you can easily just not bring Blast, and like, then it wouldn't be an issue. But at the same time, if there is a character that is this strong, why wouldn't you just be bringing it to make your life easier? I've never really understood that sentiment of like, just don't bring the character if you don't like them. I get that, but it's just, I don't like the idea of that. Now, that's about really all I have to say about the issue. Other than that, the game is in a pretty good spot. I don't really have any big, like, quote-unquote issues. I just really wanted to talk about this fact. Sorry for clickbaiting you guys or giving you guys a huge heart attack, but I just really felt like this is something that needs to be talked about, and nobody else is really talking about this fact, at least that I have seen. Now, if you guys did enjoy the video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it would help me out a lot, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.